Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be decorating my foyer for Halloween. We'll be using some of the DIYs that I made. We'll also be making a few really easy, quick DIYs to go in this room as well. We're going to start right here on my staircase where I have this beautiful painting. You may remember I did her ribbon around Christmas time and I've changed it out since then. And even though the black ribbon would be perfect for Halloween, I just wanted to change this up completely. So I had this printed off at Walgreens. It's actually a print that is in my Etsy storefront. I did have to cut it down just a little bit to fit my frame and then just pop that right in. As far as the candle sconces that are on the wall, I also made those. You may remember them, but I am taking those down to add in the skull candle sconces that I made recently. And we'll continue this wall in a little bit, but I did want to move on to my gallery wall. I've had this up for quite a while, and you may remember in the center of all this, I did have my vintage peek-through mirror that I made as well. But again, I just wanted to change everything up for Halloween, so I am going to redo this gallery wall. I will, of course, be leaving my thermostat cover, so I did change out that picture first with just an old vintage photo of some witches at a tea party. Then it was just taking down all of these other photos and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do on this wall. And this brings us to the first little DIY that I did. I do love my vintage peek-through mirror, and so I wanted to add some more mirrors to this gallery wall, but I wanted to make them ghostly, so I grabbed some pictures off of Google of Edgar Allan Poe, Mary Shelley, Washington Irving, and Bram Stoker, and I turned those into ghostly images in Photoshop, and then I'm going to use some transparency film that is for an inkjet printer, and I'm just going to print these off onto these clear sheets. And this is what they look like once they were printed off. They're very ghostly and see-through. So these are going to be perfect to add to some mirrors. I will have this transparency film linked in my Amazon storefront. And don't worry if you don't know how to use Photoshop. I am going to put these onto my blog so that you can print these off as well. And I just cut these sheets down to fit a bunch of thrifted mirrors that I had. And I'm going to use these in the wall gallery. Now, as far as planning this wall gallery, I really didn't, and I kind of just went with the flow. I knew the pieces that I wanted to use over here, especially the Victorian man and lady that I made that are also in my Etsy storefront. Those definitely had to go on this wall in this gallery, so I just filled out most of the spaces with my larger pieces first, and then I'm adding in smaller frames, including the little hand mirrors that I made as well. This antique dresser is a newer addition to my foyer. I got it off Facebook Marketplace recently, and I really wanted to make this stand out. So I am doing a couple layers over top of this dresser, some creepy cloth, and then I used some lace doilies. And of course, I had to add the Pottery Barn digital frame with the ghost in it onto here. I also have this box that I made in one of my videos, and it actually just holds all of my candles, so I pulled out some that I'll be using. Then I wanted to do another layer over top of that box with some creepy cloth. I also have an old sewing box that I'll be using over here, and of course my Victorian brass boot that will go over here as well. Once I have a lot of the main pieces that I'll be using, then I'm going to start decorating with a bunch of things that I've made. I put the Apothecary Sign on the wall. I did not hang it, but I just used some tacky pieces on the back of it so that it would hang on the wall. If you haven't already guessed the theme in this foyer, it's definitely a very witchy vibe. I also added some of these crows that I got from Amazon onto the little branches that I have in the Victorian boot. For another little DIY, I'm going to spruce up these LED candles that I got from Amazon. They have the flickering wick, but they just didn't look aged enough. So I'm using just a regular candle. I'm going to light that, and I'm going to get some of that real candle wax all over these LED candles. I'll go around, do one layer, let that first layer of wax dry, and then continue building layers onto these LED candles. And as you keep doing these layers, you're going to get some of that candle smoke smut on these, and it's really going to make it look creepy and old and grimy. And I think to make these look as realistic as possible, putting the real candle wax as close to the wick and the LED flame as possible really does help that. Over to the other side of the room where I have a bench where we hang everything. I also have some pillows that I put on that bench, and I just could not find the exact kind of pillow covers I was looking for. I do have some pillow covers for Halloween, but they just were not the vibe I was going for. So I decided to make my own using some linen pillow covers that I got from Amazon, and then some of my stamps and archival ink. I just figured out a pattern to do and then just stamped away on both of these pillow covers. And the archival ink is permanent, so you can always wash and dry these. Another thing I made this year, which I actually didn't share on my YouTube, was this coat rack. I found this little shelf at the thrift store and turned it into a coat rack. So I'm able to decorate the top of this, just adding some creepy cloth and then some of my headless horseman stuff. Back over on the stairs, I want to add a little bit of creepy cloth to start out with for a layer on the stair railing. I'm using some Dollar Tree little sticky hooks. That way I don't have to nail into my stair banisters, but I did layer that up a little bit, and then I'm going to add in some of these little wall bats from Amazon. To stick these on the wall, I found that tape does not work well at all, but Dollar Tree has this little wall putty stuff that works amazingly for these. I also added a few of them over on the gallery wall as well. Last year, I hung candles from my ceiling near the staircase, and this year I thought I would do something a little different, so I'm just using some of these Dollar Tree bats, and I'm going to take off all of this very shiny tinsel stuff from around all three of these. You really only need to remove the tinsel from the actual bat body. The wings of the bats kind of just pop off. There's another piece that pops off with that tinsel on it. There was quite a bit of hot glue that was keeping some of that purple on there, so I sanded it down a little bit. Anything I really couldn't get off, I just painted over it with some black chalk paint. Then I'm basically going to turn these into a Pottery Barn dupe. I'm using just some black macrame cord that I already had on hand. You can use jute cord and even spray paint these if you wanted to, or black yarn, anything you have that you could wrap around these. So I just used a little bit of hot glue on the back side, and then I'm just going to start wrapping these. And I did go all the way down the wing and then back over just so they would be more full with the macrame cord. Once I had these completely wrapped, then again just used a little bit of hot glue at the end to secure this macrame cord. I also wrapped some fairy lights around all of these and then used a little bit of fishing wire to hang these from my ceiling. And I just used clear little hooks on my ceiling. To finish this room off, I really wanted to add a little bit more to my stairs, and this is just some very inexpensive black maple leaf garland that I got from Amazon. I ended up removing all of those red berries from it, and I wanted to add a little bit more to it. So I already had these eucalyptus stems from a long time ago, and I ended up just using some caramel colored spray paint on these to make them fall colors, and then used some zip ties to attach these to the maple leaf garland. And this is a really good way to just reuse what you may already have. To add a little bit more of the spooky vibes to this, I had these little branches from Dollar Tree. These actually had flowers on them. I just pulled them off and spray painted them black. And that was really it for this room. Stay tuned for the reveal, and at the very end I'll also show you how I decorated my hutch in my living room.